Hey. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know how many people we come. We either need 3 blocks, or if we can't all have 3 blocks, we need 2 blocks. And if you only got 2 blocks, grab 2 bolsters. Here's a few more blocks hidden under here. Oh, wait. We have secret stashes. Oh my God. There's a dongle. Things are expensive. What's up? Huh? I have no idea. I just checked with her again. And it still seems like stuff is coming down from that building, like rules and regulations. So Isabel, grab 3 blocks, a bolster, blanket would probably be good just in case for height work. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Sticky in here. We've been hearing the people shouting for the football match, so we may hear that throughout class too. This initially got advertised as kind of like a yin restorative class, so we're going to kind of weave both in tonight. We're going to start off a little bit more restorative than we do typically, and we'll kind of play with kind of weaving in between the two. How many people are new to yin or restorative? It's just well, okay, cool. So let's get started in a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. Any props that you want to use for your seat, they're awesome. You can close your eyes or focus your gaze. And so tonight, especially as we play with some of the more restorative sections of it, we're going to use a lot more props than we might in a yin class, and we probably definitely would in some of our other practices here. And it really is going to be maybe trying to find this balance of understanding that there's amazing benefits to a practice, even when we are kind of so propped up and so held. And it can be really nourishing physically for the body. It can be really nourishing mentally and emotionally. And at times it can also be really challenging to kind of be quiet and be still and you know, to maybe feel like we're not doing something. Or maybe we've got a lot going on and a lot stirring in our mind, and that's kind of hard to sit with and be with. And we'll start off sometimes a little bit more restorative and go a little bit more yin-like. Bless you. So I invite you to see, can you find and work that balance between the two? Can we be accepting of help, assistance in the form of physical props? And that may or may not translate to who we are off the mat. Do we have a hard time asking for help? Do we have a hard time accepting help? It may or may not show up in a physical manifestation in our practice. But can you dive into and settle into that action of the practice? And then as we move into maybe a little bit more of the yin stuff where we start to peel some of the props away, you know, exploring those differences between what it feels like to be a little bit more held and what it feels like to have a little bit more stress. And in the yin practice, it's hopefully we're working with eustress, not de-stress, distress, you know, good stress versus stress that we have a negative connotation with. And seeing how these two kind of practices interweave with one another tonight. Let's draw the hands to heart center or a hand to a heart, hand to your belly, either one. You don't have to do any specific breathing here now, but you know, maybe just feeling how fast is your heart beating? What kind of breath are you breathing? What are you bringing to tonight's practice? If you have an intention or dedication for practice tonight, you can go ahead, take a moment with your intention or dedication. Share breath and our sound of Om, breathing in, letting it go, Breathing in for Om. Uh, Opening your eyes or lifting your gaze. We're going to get started with the first posture so that y'all's heads are facing the front, just because sometimes it's more comfortable the way we're going to open up the legs to have it not staring up at me. Sometimes it makes people feel more comfortable. So if we have three, I think everyone has 3 blocks. What you'll do is prop up your bolster at the head end, which is actually going to be at the end towards me. And then you'll have your 2 other blocks further down alongside your body. We're going to use these underneath the knees. Now, these bolsters are kind of thick, so this is where a blanket may be necessary for some of us to put at the butt end of our bolster, because we don't want to have too much height between our booty being on the floor and this being into our lower back. We don't want to have it be too much of a back bend here. So you can always put a blanket or 2 underneath this if we need to. So the bolster is going to be angled up with 1 block. Now your block's got 3 different settings, probably the low setting or the middle setting, just so it's widthwise and more stable. You can adjust the height of your bolster. You can always go middle or low with your block. We're going to start off with support for the knees, and then we're going to take them away. So we're going to kind of feel the difference. But the blocks, the 2 blocks off to the sides, they're going to go underneath your knees or underneath your outer thighs. And again, you can kind of play with the different heights here. Yep, we're going to be in a restorative butterfly. You need another block? Make sure we got a matching one. Do you want the rubbery ones, Isabel, since you have shorts on? Yes. Okay, they're going to be more comfortable. And I'll take those. Yeah, let me set this up. Yeah. And then feel free to close your eyes here or focus your gaze on one point. Now you can always have the blocks further down and your feet further away from your pelvis, or you can have them tighter in so you can play with the setup there. And then your hands can be on your belly, they can be on your hips, they can be off to the sides. If you want a little bit more of a chest or a shoulder stretch, maybe off to the sides for a little bit of time, or you can even bind opposite elbows or forearms above your head for some of the time. So feel free to play with those options here too. Kind of see what feels good. See if you can let the weight of your legs melt into the blocks. So really use them as your support here. So just beginning with a gentle hip opening here. You might be creating a little bit of a mild chest stretch or shoulder stretch. Now, this is your practice, so you always have the freedom to make your choices for your own body. If we want to take it a little bit more yinny into the hips, you'll just slip the blocks out from underneath your knees. Otherwise, you can keep them there. And then you can just lay them off to the side or wherever it's comfortable. We'll keep the support for the spine. You can always bring the blocks back in. But if you take them away as you spend a few more minutes here, just that invitation again to explore what feels different if you made the transition. And then the yin and restorative practices are always a great time if you want to explore kind of what's making it difficult for us to be. What makes it difficult for us to sit or to relax or to let go or do less. And sometimes it's physical pain or physical body. Sometimes it's an emotion or feeling or a thought. So just if you ever want to explore that, these can be really cool practice and times to do that too. So use your hands if you need them. You can slip your palms underneath your knees or thighs. Allow yourself to help your legs upright towards the ceiling. If you still have your blocks there, you can shift them out of the way. You might want to take a little windshield wiper of the knees here. You can extend the legs out long and just chill out for a second. So whatever feels good, some movement. You can take knee knock. You can take your feet about mat width apart and let your knees knock in towards one another. And then depending on how you want to get out of it, you could bend the knees, soles of the feet to the mat, roll to one forearm and press up, or you can always roll yourself up off of the bolster. So completely your choice. Probably a little bit more effort to curl up away from it, otherwise roll off of it. And then we're going to keep the bolster and the block where it is, but possibly we might need to move the blanket out of the way if we had it there for the seat. And we're going to shift towards the bolster towards the right. So we're going to sit back against it again, and we're going to start to roll our knees towards the right. Now you're going to have different angles here. So if we have our hip right against the bolster, it may not be as extreme as if we angle our booty a little bit towards the bolster. So you can play with this, or you can move the whole like bolster block complex away from you. But we can start off with a hip just to see how it feels. We're going to work an internal and external rotation. So 90-90 here, knees more or less in line with the hips. Feet more and less in line with the knees. Feel free also if you want to bow down on the bolster, because we're going to put our face down on this or our chin down. So if you want that to cover the bolster, let me know. But as you take your gaze towards the bolster, your hands out and lay down. Now turning head away from your knees is going to be a more intense spinal twist versus turning towards your knees or chin down. You can hug here underneath in between the block, or if you feel like you want to take just the bolster to the mat without the block, you can always do that too. And so if you've laid the hip right against your bolster, you're probably going to be still in a pretty good twist, especially if you're looking away from your knees. But again, you can always angle if you need to the bolster towards you to the left some or away from you to the right to change up your twist here. And the turn of your head will change it up as well. If your ankle's uncomfortable on the hardwood floor, you can always slip your blanket underneath the ankle. If either knee needs a little bit of support, feel free to grab your blanket and you can lay it underneath your knee, so you can use that support there too. Yeah, you want one of those? Let me get one in the back. Yeah. And so there's a lot of seated spinal twists, or there's some in the Ashtanga series. Probably done reclining spinal twists, but maybe seeing how it feels to be in a prone variation of this with your belly down. Remember, you can always shift the block or take it away if you need to. And so this posture is giving us a spinal twist, but it's also giving us a more kind of passive way to get into the hips in both an internal and an external rotation at the same time. If you've got your head angled away from your knees, you can start to pull it back towards center as you press into your elbows and forearms. You can use your palms to lift your chest away, and then you'll just roll towards the back of the room. If you want to take some time here in the middle, if you want to straighten the legs out or do anything here, rolling out the head, neck, or the shoulders, any sort of stretches through the middle. Take whatever you need here. Whenever you're ready to set up for the second side, you can just shift yourself towards your left. There's no rush to get there. So even if you saw movement out of the periphery of other people going, if you still got time to do some other things, feel free to do that. You can move your props around if you need those underneath your knees or your feet, your ankles. If you need to close up the 90-90 tighter, you can always change that up instead. You can always stack the right knee on top of the left knee if you need less of that. And then the more intense twist typically comes from the gaze going down or towards the left on this side, in addition to angling the block and the bolster towards the left instead of center or towards the right. Listen to your head and your neck here as well. May have felt good going one way on one side. It may need to be different on this side. Where you have your knees and your ankles might need to be a little bit different on this side. Maybe see if you can let the body go a little floppy. You can always come to a belly breath if you need to. Just kind of let everything feel a little loose away from the attachments to the bone, so everything just gets a little bit more loosey-goosey. And then if you've had your head turned away from your knees, you can start to come back towards center. As you do so, take as much time as you need to press up through your elbows, through your forearms, through your palms. Again, you can lift your chest up away from the bolster. As you turn away, shake it out. You can do more active stretches here. And chill out for a minute, whatever feels good. There's not going to be a rush, but leaving the bolster and the block where it is, start to transition yourself to face around to the front. We may need a blanket to sit on here, and may even need a bolster, another bolster, so just let me know. Now we're going to first take a supported restorative forward fold, and then we're going to take it into a more yin-like forward fold so we can check out these differences. So you can always grab another bolster to sit up on. We've got our blocks here, so if you need to go higher, you can always kind of building block your way. This is going to give us more support, especially if we have a harder time taking the forward fold. You can go up as high as we need to here. If you need any more support for underneath the knees, blankets, or blocks, let me know. We have some more of those. And so we'll draw the bolster in towards our pelvis. We'll open up our legs as wide as we have space for. Relax the feet, relax the toes. And then we're just going to come down, and you've got some choices here. Now my body rage on. We've got some choices here. If you don't have all these blocks, or you might even find space, you can hug, you can come down with your chin, you can come down with the ear, and I will tell you about halfway through so you can turn and change out the angle of your head one direction for the other. So go up as high as you need to here, but we want this to be a lot more supportive than our yin. So we're just hopefully going to start to feel a gentle supported opening for the back of the body, and sitting up higher and having our bolster here in front of us should give us a little bit more space to kind of dive and fall into that. So let's check out sitting up on a bolster. Yeah. I would say maybe just more challenging. So let's see how that feels. And you can always pull that in tighter, sit closer. Same thing, EJ. See how that goes. Okay. We're gonna go in here. How about wrapping around that? How does that feel? And you can pull those in closer to your chest and belly, and you can pull the bottom one in closer to even support the belly. So you can kind of round forward. How does that feel? Okay. Same thing. Try it out, maybe one in front, and you can see if laying down, or you can go like Madison across your thighs. So she's got it going across, like one more to the pelvis. See how it feels to go down, and you may want one on top of that. And you can even have one underneath the chest to help support you. You want another one, or does that feel okay?
I mean, this was good.
Okay. Okay. And you're sitting on the edge of yours. And what you can do EJ, is kind of sit more on the edge of that bolster. It's going to give you a little bit more of an angle rather than sitting so flat on it. And that means you might have to pull that in a little bit tighter. Do you want this other one underneath your chest? So it's here if you want to check it out. How you feeling, Joanne? Okay, cool. So you're going to take your modification off. You can always just do it with your legs real tight around. How does that feel if it's open? Or if it feels better to have. Yeah. And so in restorative practices, it's exactly what we're doing. We're using kind of all the props at our disposal. In true restorative classes, we pull in so many bolsters and straps and props. We're all going to be in different places with our body. And so just finding our way between the angles of our body and the hard angles of the floor. Go ahead and turn your gaze the opposite direction if you're not going straight down the middle and you want to stretch out your neck in the opposite way. Now your legs can be straight here. They can be as bent as they need to be. If your knees are resting away from the mat and you need blanket rolls underneath your knees, let me know, or more blocks underneath your knees, let me know. You want this blanket one? You good? You want blankets? Is that too thick or you want it? Okay. Yeah. And start to come back through center with your head. Begin to lift upright. And if you're good with where you're seated, we can kind of just stay with where we're at with the lower body and just go ahead and move your props out of the way for the upper body. If you're too high underneath your booty, feel free to come off of those props and move them out of the way. Otherwise, just lay what's out in front of you off to the side. And we're not going to spend as long and in the yin hold here, but just a minute or so in a more relaxed shape. So we may be up here with our palms on the mat. We might be down with our forearms. We might be down all the way down. If we're sitting up on the edge of something, we're going to have a little bit more space. Maybe the hands need to come out in front of us on blocks or props, forearms out in front of us. Start to find a little bit, maybe, or a lot of a difference for some of us here, depending on kind of our range and what's going to happen from going from being really propped up out in front of us to having a lot less around us. And then we'll take it even more active here in just a minute or so. What would feel good for you to work on? Is that what you want to do? Okay, cool. Okay. How about you want to work internal rotation? Are you good with like hero pose? Like Virasana sitting back, or how's that feel on the knees? Okay. How about just a straightforward fold? Yeah. So working kind of similar idea with the hamstrings, but less about the external rotation pull. And so you can always sit up on something if you need to for the next minute or so. You can just be a little bit chilled out here, let the back relax, and then we'll take it more active no matter which one we're in. Yeah. You can sit up on the bolster, up on the blanket. Still here for this first little bit. Maybe just try to relax the legs and the toes, and then we'll take it into kind of a more active static hold for a little bit. But otherwise, if it feels okay for the back, just letting it gently round. We're not going to hang out here too long. And maybe even noticing if you have a lot less support underneath your chest, like what does it feel like to have had that holding you up in the flexion of the spine versus what does it feel like to maybe not have any of that out in front of your chest and belly? Where do we take that on the back side of our body, or maybe in our neck? Maybe just about 30 more seconds here, so not a super long time, but letting yourself notice if there is a small or a maybe large difference between first variation and second variation. And then we're going to start to take it more active wherever we are, whether our legs are split or whether they are together. So you can start to flex or point your toes, completely your choice here. Flexing is probably going to be a little bit more in the hamstrings. You can walk the hands out forward instead of rounding and coming down. Think about pulling out of your hips. So lengthen spine and then taking that length down. So sometimes we try to come down real close by rounding. Let's take the spine in the opposite direction. We may not come down as low, but see if you can keep it elongated. So it might be hands out in front of us. You might need to close up your split a little bit. Legs really active, no matter if we're out straight in front of us. You could bind somewhere on your legs. If your legs are out straight, you can do the same thing. If your legs are split, you can find that bind. But see if you can elongate here and be really active in it. We'll take about 5 breaths or so. So about a full 30 seconds, maybe 5 seconds inhale and exhale to be really active in the stretch. So lengthen through the spine. The back of the neck is part of the spine. So cervical spine goes with the rest of it. You might find you have to bend your knees a little bit more here, but think about your active forward folds and Ashtanga to that space. See if you can notice the difference on mine in the neck and what feels preferable for you. About another 5 seconds here. And then walking yourself back upright. using your palms, core lifting up. You can draw your legs in together, move more props out of the way if you need to, give your legs a shake or a wiggle. You can roll through the feet and ankles. Did some of those variations feel better for some of us versus others? Did they all feel okay? Okay. So kind of checking in. Sometimes this like flexion and being heavy with it can feel really bad for us some days and taking the strain here. So pulling the props in can help, or taking the direction of our spine and tilt of our pelvis can help. So playing with that, not only in this practice, but all of your practices. How can you incorporate that in? And then we're going to take the props more out of the way for right now so we can get a little bit into a spinal back bend twist, hamstring action. We'll kind of coordinate all of these postures that we've done into one called cat pulling tail. I'm going to find out the best place so that most of y'all can see this. So we're going to lay back on our backs. And let's say maybe heads facing the front, just so hopefully we all have room. You can adjust your legs up and down depending on your neighbor, but I think we're going to be okay. Let's roll to our left side, kind of like, I don't know, we're chilling at the beach or we're chilling, I don't know, watching TV or something. You can support your head here for a moment. You can always grab your blanket or block or bolster and have it nearby your head here. So it can always go underneath so your head doesn't have to angle down towards the floor. Our right leg is on top and we're going to take it out towards the left, actually. So we're going to stretch it out away from us. Now our left leg is reaching back towards the back of the room, except for Prashant. So hopefully you know which way you're going, Prashant. So we're going to tuck our left toes under so we can roll more on top of our left thigh. So we've got our pelvis kind of rolling down towards the floor. It's an awkward one if we haven't done this one at first. So you can tuck the left toes under, roll towards the top of your left thigh at first, and then you can untuck the toes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reach our right arm up, bend our left knee. That's the one reaching back towards the back of the room, and bind up our left foot. If you need a strap, let me know. Now you can always stay here on your side, working more hamstring and working into the quad stretch, or else we're going to take this into a back bending spinal twist by kicking into our right hand and kicking it so that we roll back, for some of us, all the way back onto our backs. For some of us, this might get us into our outer right hip and right glute. Now for our right leg that's extended out, you might need to put the foot up on a block or a bolster. You might need to put your knee and shin up on a bolster. You might need a little blanket there. You could always do that. You can hug the heel in and work more of the quad. The more you kind of kick away from you and move your left knee back behind you, the more you're probably going to feel this into the back bend and the spinal twist, the more you roll onto your back. If you roll back towards the back of your head, you can always use a block or bolster there. If you can't reach one of your props, let me know and I can always bring it to you or help you out. Blanket. Where you want? You got it? Okay. What's going on? Where are you feeling it? Okay, good. Okay, that's good. So come out of it. Let me see you go back into it, EJ. So just let go of that leg altogether. Tuck your toes under and roll. Yeah. See if you can roll even more to the top of your left thigh. Like you want to go onto your belly. Yeah, do that first. And then draw your left knee in. So that's one reaching back. Yeah, reach back and then try to roll away from it. If you have your foot kind of more towards Isabel, it's probably going to be more into the IT band. Now see if you can kick back behind you. We may need to put something underneath your right leg. What happens if you roll back? You don't have to keep that foot down. Your right foot doesn't have to stay down yet. It's kind of an awkward pose. The first time we do it, it can feel kind of awkward the whole time we do it. Okay, where are you feeling it?
A little bit in this, like,
okay. So the more this knee would move back here, sometimes the more you'll get it into the quad and the back bend. And then you've got those props right by your head. You can always slip a bolster or a block right underneath there. You got it, Prashant? What's going on? Feeling in it. Huh? Okay, yeah. So some of us are going to feel it probably pretty strong in the IT band, the glute on that right side, and that may be the only place you feel it. Some of us may not feel it there. Some of us more, you might feel it in the lower back bend. It could be the chest on the right side, especially if you're rolling back. Do you need the block lower, EJ, or are you good with it that high underneath your head? That's good. Okay. It just is whatever feels more comfortable for you. And you might be able to have a little bit more space to kind of go back. How you doing, Jawan? When you bend it? Okay. Yeah. And you can always just kind of do a twist too if you want to bind up the bottom arm to the leg and just take a twist. You can work that too. Yeah. And you can always have the leg out straight if you want to work the straight leg. Yeah. You want me to move this out of your way? You're good? Okay, perfect. Again, this one can be kind of awkward, and the first time it feels like iffy, or are we getting the right spots? But it can be a really cool one once we kind of figure out how to navigate it to work a lot of different parts of our body and notice maybe what is tighter, what is more mobile. Because there's a lot going on with this one at the same time. Madison, if you want more of the quadricep or the back bend, this knee can always kind of move this direction. Otherwise, if you're good wherever you are, say what? Okay, perfect. Just letting you know, yeah, you can always go that way. Yes, if bones are telling us not to, we will listen to our bones. And these practices can kind of tell us like those differences between limitations. Bone limitations usually feel different. Sometimes they feel kind of more pinchy or compression-y versus limitations where they're stretching or pulling kind of through tension. And so figuring out those two different things, because we might be kind of bumping up our edges versus bone edges versus kind of fascia, muscle, connective tissue edges, and they're going to feel different. So you can start to slowly release your left leg. You can start your right knee a little bit if you need to, and you can start to roll towards your belly. And then you can pull the right leg in. You can lay through your belly. You can take a little sphinx here. You can backwards windshield wiper the knees, kind of whatever you need here. Now, if you needed some of those props on one side, like if you needed something underneath the extended leg, maybe move it off to the other side of your mat. If we needed something underneath our head, have that nearby so we can grab it. And it's going to be cat pulling tail on the other side. So we'll prop up, kind of like we're chilling out. Bend the left knee. Take as high up as you want to towards your face. first things first, you want to get more internally rotated towards the floor on that right side. So tuck the toes under, walk your right hip off to the right. If you want more into that quadriceps and maybe back bend, even walk your right leg to the right first. And then from here, you can pull it in, you can hug it in, you can stay here. This could be a really good quad, squeezing in tight. Maybe you want to chill out. It's going to be the kick that takes us back. So the strength of the kick at first, it's going to start to roll you back. Your left leg is going to go with you. You can always bind up your left leg if that feels good to lock you in. If you're rolled all the way back or your head is supported, your right hand can reach down and bind up the left leg. If you need help with your props, let me know. You can have them underneath your head. You can have them underneath the extended leg. Again, you can lock in your left leg with your right arm. Some of y'all might be rolled all the way back onto your shoulder blades. Some of you are going to be up higher than that. Some of y'all might be completely on your right side. So there's no right or wrong. Yeah. Okay. So what would you like to focus on here? Like a twist, hamstrings, quad stretch, what would feel good? Okay. So if you want to kind of focus more the IT band, let's just take it into, if this twisted roots feels okay, you know, bend the knee, soles of feet up, or soles of feet down to get the left IT band, crisscross right ankle on your left thigh, bump your hips to the left, and then roll right and have that right leg on top. If you want an IT band focus. Yeah, if you want to stay in the pose, if that feels okay, you can work that instead. If you want to focus more on IT band, you can go into that twist. Okay. And so there's always options. Like a pose may not feel good on one side, it may not feel good for us at all. We may want to work one part of the pose and we're not getting it. So we can always kind of work similar intention from a different posture. So just let me know. And so cat pulling tail, again, we could be feeling some chest stretching on the left side, may or may not, back bending, IT band on the left side, maybe the hamstring, could be a quad stretch, hip flexor stretch on the right side, could be a shoulder stretch on the left. It might be just one of those things. It might be a couple or a combination. And if there's one of those things out of those that you'd rather work instead and you're not getting it, just let me know. You'll spend a couple more minutes here. I will say probably this is one of the impostures that gets taught the least. One, because you need more space in a room typically. And two, just because it is kind of so awkward feeling the first time. So just giving that some space to be with the body too. And if you've got your right leg bound up, you can slowly start to release that, soften your grip there. You can softly begin to bend the left knee if you need to, and just roll yourself, maybe always belly or back, whatever feels better for you. If you roll to your belly and you want some active movement, you can always go back to a tabletop and move around through the spine some, or even push back to a child's pose. Can backwards windshield wiper the feet, or if you're on your back, windshield wiper the knees, draw them in towards the chest, take a happy baby. You can stretch it out in down dog, kind of whatever feels good for you here. We don't have enough wall space for legs up the wall. So we're going to do a variation of a restorative finish for a practice when we don't have the wall space. And eventually, as you're ready, no rush, we'll have 2 blocks and a bolster. And you can always have your blanket for underneath your head as a little neck roll or as a pillow if you want it. Whichever way your feet are going to go, have the bolster side to side on your mat on the 2 blocks. Probably on the high setting would be good. You don't want to have too much space in the middle for it to completely sink in the middle, but we've got good thick bolsters here, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. You don't have your blanket. If you want a little cervical spine neck roll, you can open it up once or twice and give yourself a little roll. You can adjust the height. The back of your head would rest on the blanket. This would go underneath the cervical spine to keep it longer supported, or you could just have it folded, or you cannot use it altogether. So feel free to play with that. And then there's going to be some options here. You can be real close up, have your knees real tight to the bolster, and have your calves supported by the bolster. That might feel good. Some people prefer to have this further away and more of a length through the back of the leg, so more hamstring, and that's going to come more ankles, bottom of your calves supported. So you can kind of play here, but no matter what, we're going to get our heart just a smidge lower than our legs, whether it's with a knee bent variation or whether you want to play with the leg straight variation. If your bolster is sinking too much in the middle, we don't want to put that third block into the middle of the bolster. Yeah, and sometimes it takes a minute to kind of get settled. Find that right spot to underneath your head and your neck. Find the right distance away from your bolster. Play with that. Wherever you are, see if you can let your toes relax, your legs feel heavy, they're being held by your props, and play with how wide apart your feet are. So find that comfortable place wherever it feels good for your arms to go. And close your eyes here, focus your gaze if you need your eyes to be open. Maybe take a slightly deeper breath in with your next inhalation. Can bend your knees if you have the space. Just draw your feet to the bolster or in towards your chest a little bit. Maybe keeping a little bit more stillness with the body. Can roll if you have the space gently off to the right or off to your left. And as you're ready, pressing up, finding a seat, maybe grabbing a prop if you need to on your mat. If you need a little bit of quieting, you can always close the eyes here if you're comfortable. Quieting of one sense anyways. Or focus the gaze if your eyes are open, maybe past the tip of your nose. Meditation begins with our ability to focus and then just honing that ability over time practice. So today we'll just spend a couple minutes just seeing how much can we focus on what's really present in our body, whether that's a thought or a sensation or a breath or a heartbeat. And you might weave yourself in and out through a lot of things, but see if you can just take that journey, what's happening within you for the next minute or so. Feeling the palms together at heart center. We'll finish tonight with a round of ohms or a sea of ohms. So for this one, we've got the fans on in the background. If we're a little bit nervous about ohms, that should help kind of cover it up. With this, it's a rolling round. So the next time you're ready to breathe in and ohm out, you go, whether anybody else is going. So don't necessarily wait for me to lead, except this first one we'll start together. The next two will be on your own whenever you're ready to breathe in and breathe out. We'll take a breath together though first, breathing in, letting that go. So 3 all together, breathing in. Drawing your thumbs up to your forehead, drawing your chin in towards your chest. Bow, receive yourself. Practice. I bow with my gratitude for sharing your practice and your energy with me tonight. Let me know if y'all have any comments or questions or feedback. Hopefully y'all have a wonderful Sunday, a great sleep tonight. Because Anne Marie likes them a certain way, and because we used a lot of blankets, just know if we're wide and we fold, we go fringe to fringe, little rectangle, and the fringe goes into the wall as we put it up. But take your time, no rush. That's what happens with these classes. I know. Let's go. We got so many.